You spoke very eloquently about freeing the peoples backed by what you termed Western-backed dictatorships from the oppression pushed upon them. Yet you vocally supported the re-election of a man in Venezuela named Hugo Chávez, who frequently shuts down opposition television stations, frequently jails any journalist who criticises him, specifically when Globovision covered prison riots, which Venezuelan prison governors brutally suppressed prisoners. That television station was immediately shut down. So where is the freedom of expression and freedom of dissent for Venezuelan opposition leaders, especially considering Mr. Capriles was never given any television coverage. He was not allowed the oil subsidies that Chavez used to fund his election campaign. And a second question.
Think what you're saying, young man, before you publicly smear people in this way. Now look, what you just said about Venezuela is so far from the truth. I have to imagine you wandered in here. You're not really a student at Oxford University. You cannot be a student at Oxford University and say what you just said about Venezuela. Hugo Chávez is the most elected politician on the earth. On the earth. He has won more free and fair elections than any politician on the earth. You spoke, let me answer you. Who said so? Jimmy Carter, last week. Last week, Jimmy Carter, that well-known Islamist revolutionist, homophobic, misogynistic tyrant, Jimmy Carter described last week's election, which I witnessed and you did not, as the most perfect election he has ever observed. Better than any election ever held in the United States. That's what Jimmy Carter said, not me. Hugo Chávez won a landslide victory against 30 opposition parties. You said that Chávez doesn't allow opposition. 30 opposition parties combined to put up one presidential candidate. You said Capriles was never given one television interview. Capriles was never off the television. I was watching him with my own eyes, day in, day out, all the time I was in Venezuela. Don't shake your head. You're talking nonsense. 95% of the television stations in Venezuela are privately owned and supported Capriles. Me and my wife were on the demonstration of hundreds of thousands of opposition supporters supporting Capriles' election campaign. Just last week, you're talking nonsense. Capriles himself has acknowledged that he was defeated in a free and fair election. I've heard of being more Catholic than the Pope. You're more Capriles than Capriles. It's utterly absurd what you're saying. Utterly absurd. And it's a disgrace that you feel that you can say these things with so little knowledge of the true facts. Rich people in Venezuela hate Hugo Chávez because Hugo Chávez has utterly transformed the lot of the poor masses in Venezuela, which is why he keeps getting re-elected. Poverty has been reduced by 75% in the 14 years that Chávez has been in power. He's built 22 universities, making Venezuela the 5th largest student body in the world, in a country of just 26 million people. 98% of Venezuelans now eat 3 meals a day, when nobody even counted how many, because it wouldn't have been worth doing how many ate 3 times a day before the Venezuelan revolution. Chávez is regarded by the majority of thinking people in the world as one of the great leaders of the third world. And you should be identifying with him. If you're a champion of gay rights, do you think fascism in Venezuela was a better friend for gay rights than Hugo Chávez? Chávez has freed the gay people in Venezuela. Gay people were out marching in huge numbers for Chávez in Venezuela. Women were out marching in huge numbers for Chávez in Venezuela. He's a champion of women's rights, a champion of black people, a champion of the indigenous people. That's why they all voted for him.